Alice. Thanks so much for doing this today.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, let's start at the beginning like we do with all of these videos. Tell us a little bit about Fillip.
So Fillip Fleet is taking on a very traditional industry. And so let me describe to you what we do. Imagine for just a moment a small business owner, a taxi company, a plumbing company, last mile delivery service, all businesses that require vehicles to do work. But when you pause for just a moment and you consider how do these fleet owners pay for fuel? It's one of their largest and most frequent expenses. And fleet owners require a convenient way to actually get fuel paid for in their company vehicles. But there's actually very few options that are available to fleet owners, particularly small business owners today. They could ask their employees to pay for fuel and expense it, but those are oftentimes the folks who are least likely to be able to carry the cost of that on behalf of the business. And they actually end up resenting the fact that they have to pay for fuel and ask for reimbursement. You could give them a corporate credit card. You could give them the good old, a corporate credit card and ask them to pay for fuel and maintenance. But that opens up small businesses to potential fraud or card misuse or paying for expenses beyond fuel. Or they could apply for a traditional fleet card. Again, very legacy technology today, and these cards are expensive, charge egregious fees, prone to fraud, and quite frankly, the customer that we serve today oftentimes just simply do not qualify. And so Fillip Fleet is the first and only digital fleet card designed specifically from the ground up for small business. Our fleet card empowers our business owners to manage all of their expenses associated with the vehicles that they own and operate. We give their employees the ability to fuel up anytime, anywhere, and we give them the visibility and control that they need and require.
Amazing. That's terrific. Okay, so let's do some of the logistics. How many years have you guys been in business?
So Fillip Fleet, we had a pivot. We've been in business, really since sort of 2019, 2020. But in January of 2021, we had a pivot. We had been serving the business to consumer market previous to that, when we recognized that there was a completely underserved and overlooked market in the B2B, in the business to business fuel card space, specifically for small businesses. It was a segment of the market that fuel retailers and fleet management companies just simply could not serve.
Amazing. Okay, so you did the pivot. How many employees do you have currently?
So we're sitting just over 20 employees today. We have in Alberta, British Columbia, and Ontario, but most of our folks here are right here in Calgary.
Awesome. That's exciting. So when you think back on this company and why you wanted to start it, I mean, I know you started other companies, but why specifically did you want to start Fillip?
Fillip, we saw just an amazing opportunity. I love my experience has been in digital transformation of very traditional industries, first in design and construction management. Again, this is a very traditional industry that is truly ripe for disruption. And so that's a big a draw, quite an attraction for me. But also, it's really about the small business itself. Small businesses are the backbone of our communities. They drive economic development. And there are over 1.2 million small businesses in Canada. There's over 6.5 million small businesses in the US alone that have fleet vehicles and have to have a way to pay for fuel and maintenance and other related expenses. And so we really saw this opportunity to help serve small business and create opportunities, and remove barriers, remove costs that small business oftentimes just don't have.
You just can't handle it. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so if you think of human impact, now at Thinner Labs, we always like to talk about creating human impact or human value. When you think of that impact, what does that mean to you at Fillip?
Well, I think there's a whole bunch of impact that we can create. There's first and foremost on our small business customers, and it's really about making their life easier, removing the burdens, removing the costs, and enabling them to grow. I think there's impact around us creating, moving from being a startup to a scale up. As we move from a startup to a scale up, and we grow the talent and the capabilities and the success here in Calgary and in Alberta, ultimately that means we can start here, we can scale here, we'll succeed here, which means we'll stay here, and we'll continue to grow and build our organization in Calgary and beyond.
Sure like the sound of that. Sounds amazing. Okay, so if you're looking down the road for Fillip, say, even the next few months, next few years, what's next?
So we're continuing to grow. So we delighted to share that we've been winning some awards and recognition here at Fillip Fleet over the last little bit. We're putting that towards our growth both here locally in Canada, but also to take and expand this opportunity into the U.S. market. Canada represents about 1/10 the size of the U.S. market. And so we're also working towards raising additional capital to support that growth. So that's sort of our near term, end of Q1 sort of target for Fillip Fleet.
Terrific. Very exciting to watch. Alice, thanks so much for this.
Thank you.